encouraging just to listen to you, lots going on. I was pleased, The course is called a challenge, so unsurprisingly, I think most of you found it a challenge. But just get a sense of you, wanting to engage with that and make something of it. It's on the one hand, 6 weeks seems like a long time ago since we started, and at the same time, time's absolutely flown, hasn't it? It's like that strange elasticity of time. So in a way, 6 weeks isn't much time to really develop new habits. It's not much time to really, explore this really, really deep, hopefully exciting, but challenging stuff. So 6 weeks is just the beginning, but it might just have, I don't know where you are, first gear, second gear, you might be moving a little bit. There might be something significant going on. So yeah, pleased to hear what you were talking about. In a way, what I'm going to talk a little bit about now is it's a bit like what next, because the course is finished. There is the Saturday retreat. There's more courses, but how do you take this on, whether you come along to another course or not? What else? And we've got these 5 traditional kind of teachings that allow us to support ourselves a bit more, to go a bit deeper, and to take on a bit more, so we can be a little bit more independent. As always, I'd really say it's fantastic to meditate with others. You've just experienced it. Here we are sitting silently on our own, but being in a room with others really makes a difference. So you do need support on your own, but I'd really recommend coming here when you can, keep in touch with whoever it is, finding ways to take this a bit further. But these are teachings that you can sort of take away with you and keep running. And you might have already kind of picked them up as we've been talking. What we're looking at here are qualities or factors that you've probably already got. They are just ordinary human qualities, ordinary human things that most of you might recognise to a greater or lesser degree in your lives, in different places, in different ways, in the way that you live out what your lifestyle is. They're not sort of, as it were, great teachings from above that you don't know about and you've got to learn. I think you'll probably kind of go, oh yeah, I kind of get something there. And it's just feeding those factors, those qualities we've got, and seeing where we get to. So there's this particular list is five factors. There's a funny Buddhist term for them, but let's leave that behind for the time being. We might briefly drop those in on Saturday just to add a bit of colour. You heard Gosaka talk about one of the hindrances as, broadly to describe it, wanting. We're wanting sensual desire. We're sort of wanting something else. We're wanting pleasure. We're wanting to be somewhere else. We're wanting to do something else. We kind of don't want to be doing nothing, sitting there in silence doing nothing. We want something, physically, emotionally, mentally. We're always wanting, and it's just worth noting that is a really fundamental human thing, just to want. It's very, very hard to get rid of. It's just identifying that that's what's going on. So here we can say there's a bit of a balance. Well, we can balance more towards wanting what we might call sensual desire. Football, ice cream. I'm not talking about myself here, of course. Who knows what it may be? There's 1,001 things. We all have our mild or our greater or our more challenging peccadillos, the things we get into. But we're leaning more towards wanting things which are a bit short term. They're very satisfying right then, but then we need it again, and then there's the next thing, then there's endless hunger, things that don't quite work, a bit selfish, a bit short term, a bit where they leave us. We can move we can move towards addiction in that sort of area. But there's a scale whereby we can say, well, we want things which are healthier for us, which are richer, which are more beautiful, which are more generous, which are more outward going, which kind of think, I can tell people about these wants. I don't want to tell people about those wants, but I can tell people about these wants because there's something more substantial to them, and they work and they last longer. And in a way, that's what we're trying to cultivate here, this sense of wanting something richer and deeper, something with greater value that we can say, yep, that's all right. I'm happy to pursue this want. To sort of develop that, the quality that we talk about here particularly is, well, really emotional engagement, which we probably have. Probably emotional engagement with the sort of naughty wants. It's a bit tight, it's a bit mean, it's a bit limited. But the ones which are a bit more beautiful, that emotional engagement can be a bit bigger and a bit more expensive. We can really say there's much more emotion going on. I saw also a point here, they're sort of in the body. We can think about them, we can be mentally engaged, but there's a sense of emotional engagement. You've been here for 6 weeks, there's an indication that you've got some emotional engagement with what you've been finding here. You thought, oh no, not another week, oh no, but there's enough emotional engagement to say, yeah, I want this. It does something to me, it lifts me up. So it's just finding constantly ways to remind yourself of that and to feed it. Those emotional wants, how can you sort of turn those more into richer, more beautiful wants? And we can say, yeah, it's good to want those. Desire, passion, really bring them alive, really get engaged and say, yeah, you can sing about them. And there's a beginning of a sense of beauty within these things. So it's this quality of emotional engagement, creative wanting, imaginative wanting, a sense of beauty. Love is a good way of looking towards it. These things aren't really very loving, are they? They're a bit tight. They're a bit, not quite, but things we want more. We can see that sense of love in them. And it's just finding ways to enjoy that, to feed it, to connect with others, reminders when it gets a little bit. How can we remind ourselves that is there, that it's in the body, that we recognise it from other areas in our life, and we can take that a bit further. And that gets us going. That gets us rolling. Well, the next one, in a way, it's just a flow to take that a bit further. And the simple way to describe that is making a resolve, commitment. Well, I've done 6 weeks. Some of you have done more. Some of you have been to more courses. Some of you have been meditating for. Some of you kind of recognise this from other parts of your life. So you commit yourself to things that are more valuable. And it's quite a strong word, isn't it? Commitment. Usually things that we value in life, we're committed to. People, family, work, the other pleasures. Yeah, there's some fairly rich pleasures. You might be committed to sport or art or whatever it is. You just want to keep going with them. But it does involve that commitment. And that's sort of here, but you might need to say it. And you might need to get some habits rolling that feed that commitment. So it's emotional engagement and getting committed. Yep, I'm going to resolve to keep coming back to this. Chances are you can wander off. I'm going to resolve to come back. It's okay. It's kind of okay wandering off. It's just like it's going to happen. Oh yeah, that's all right. But I'm going to bring resolve to this. I'm going to bring a bit more energy to this. What does commitment sound like? You're going to stand there. You're going to stay there. You're going to keep going. You're going to keep coming back. The struggles and the surprises and the numerous other distractions. People talk about screens. Wow, how committed we are to our screens. Well, of course we have to do that with work and communication. But here's something else that might have a richer sense to it that we can enjoy more. So it's emotional engagement with a bit more something, commitment, determination. You recognise that. You know what that feels like elsewhere. Again, you've made it along for a little while, so it's just making sure you pat yourself on the back for the little amount of commitment you've had so far. Hopefully, it's been an enjoyable commitment. It can have a bit of determination and a bit of discipline about it, which are quite strong and slightly difficult words to face up to. But if it's discipline towards something pleasurable, if it's discipline towards something deeper, then that commitment rewards us. So that takes us a bit further, and you can say, you've already had a taste of that. I don't remember which week it was in. Arthur introduced the word smrti. Sometimes it's also used as sati. Do you remember what week that was? Okay. It has that sense of recollection, remembering what we're doing, remembering where we are. And actually, probably if you look at what you do in your time, we're probably doing that all the time. We're jumping back, and we're coming back, and we're coming back, whatever it is. I was just cooking earlier on, and I was looking out the window, then come back to cooking, and then I don't know what it was, something else, and then I heard something. It wasn't too difficult, but I had to keep coming back to cooking. I had to keep coming back to time and the next ingredient. We're constantly moving. What's the next thing? It's fair enough to think about what the next thing is, and then be back here. When there isn't something like cooking to focus on, we're sitting there silently, there's slightly less to remember to come back to. So there's a bit more of a practice. There's a bit more of a practice needed in remembering what you're trying to do. You're trying to sit still, you're trying to sit silently, you're trying to sit patiently, you're trying to sit with the breath, you're trying to sit with kindness and compassion. And they're a little bit less tangible, so a bit more reminding, a bit more remembering is needed. And there's, I don't know if I'm dating myself rather, going back many, many years, old radios used to have dials. Yeah. We used to have a Bush radio. Who remembers those classic Bush radios? Going back before, some of you perhaps. And you just had to tune them to get the radio station. And it took a little while to find it exactly where I was. And sometimes they're always static, so you can never quite get it. But finally you'd find the best sound. And then you could listen to the radio. And after a few minutes you think, it's gone a bit fuzzy again. What happened there? And who knows whether it's the radio or the conditions. So you'd have to tune it back in a bit. In a little while it'd be gone the other way. So there's a sense of constantly just tuning into where you want to be, so it's clearest, the most beautiful sound. And in a way, that's what we're doing. We just can't help that sort of that little wandering. Oh yeah, hang on, I can't quite hear so well. I'm not quite so focused. I'm not quite so present. Where do we find it? So there's a gentle tuning, and it's kind of a natural thing to wander. Oh yeah, I've wandered, and we come back in. That's my sort of feeling of sati. It's not that sort of right or wrong. We're wrong over here and we're right over there. There's that subtlety that's needed. There's that pleasure. There's that tuning into the right sound, the right place where we want to be. And it'll always take work. It'll always take bringing ourselves back in. And if conditions are right, the atmospheric conditions, who knows what it is. Sometimes we stay pretty on point a lot of the time. We can really be there. And sometimes it's just, what's going on here? Why am I wandering? There I go. Yeah, no. Be with it. It's just, that's the richness of the mind, the stimulation of the mind. Who knows what's going on? And again, that can be a certain bodily thing. The body can sort of wander. We can slump, we can get too tight. We can be leaning. It can become a bit more harder work when we're off going somewhere, and we might feel that in the body. But when we're a bit more tuned in, we might notice it in the body. The body's a very good gauge of what's really going on. We think we're there, somewhere, some thoughts up there, but actually this will tell us, yeah, I think I'm a bit more there. I'm a bit more engaged. We can ask the body, how am I doing? And this will give you some sort of reminder, some sort of feedback. This is a process of, it's not quite an exact sequence because we might have to go backwards and forwards with these practices, but we could say as we get more that sense of reminding and staying there a little bit longer occasionally, we become more absorbed. We just become more fully engaged with it. And I've kind of looked around for different words, and I think absorption, when you're really with something that's pleasurable, when you're with someone who's pleasurable, when you're doing something that's pleasurable, you're with it, you're present, you're absorbed in it, you're full of it, and it's rich and deep, and there's plenty to explore. It's got an emotional quality to it, and we can have fun. We can have fun with it. Sometimes it's called concentration, which can be a valuable word. We're concentrated, but it's not the sort of hard, what do you call it? Furrowed brow, pinched face, getting into that tiny little point. There's a little bit of that, but that, again, your body's telling you, you might be getting too sharp with it. So how can we have that concentration where the forehead is not so furrowed? So it depends exactly what words work for you. Concentration can help. Absorption kind of says, well, you've got to be full and big and open to fully absorb what's going on. You've got to be big and open, and the body has to be present to absorb it and to take it in. We get absorbed in the things that we're interested in. Whatever you, there's 1,001 things we just naturally turn towards, and once we start being with someone, being in our sport, in our art, and being outside, all those sorts of things, we can be absorbed in those things, and we're with the colours, the sounds, the conversation. We're just completely present. We're completely there, and it just seems nourishing, healthy. It seems a balanced sort of way of being, a balanced place to be. So it's looking for absorption. And pleasure comes into a lot of this, but I'd say another word for absorption could be pleasure. You get absorbed in pleasure. Hopefully, some pleasures are likely to be more absorbing, and you can stay with them, and they're richer. And again, you might recognise that. The final quality is a kind of a bit of a step further, and in some ways there's less to say about this, and I'm going to have to rely on you to sort of kind of have a sense of what I mean. The next step is wisdom. When we're emotionally with something, when we've committed ourselves to something, when we keep coming back to something, when we're absorbed in something, I mean, in 6 weeks you might have really learnt something. You might have really gone somewhere. Some sort of something might have arisen. Well, it's the beginnings of wisdom. That can be the beginnings of wisdom. There's plenty of areas in your life where you've been with people, with family, with work, thousands, where little by little you say, you've just got a bit of wisdom. It's quite hard to define what wisdom is, because it's a bit like knowledge, but it's not quite knowledge. It's a bit like intelligence, but it's not quite intelligence. It's a bit like knowing. What exactly is it? Because it's not just brain power. This needs to be stimulated and engaged, but wisdom is sort of something more than that, isn't it? And once again, I think there's something about being in the body with wisdom. You're a bit more open. I can think of a particular person who I can fairly trust to have a good wise attitude, and so whenever we're talking, he's often like say, I don't know. Like, oh yeah, he does know. There's something wise there, but he can't. You just can't describe it. You can't quite say what it is. And it's deeper. It moves into the nature of, it moves into the nature of poetry. It's described more better in some ways in poetry, or that walking in nature where you can't describe it. You can't say what's going on, what the experience is there, but somehow wisdom can emerge. You've got wisdom yourselves, you've spent time with wise people, and here is a way to just further that, to fulfill that more. Just tiny drops of wisdom can be really enjoyable, and we can feed those further. It can take patience. I think I've been around enough years to have some patience. Okay. I'd like to have more than I have. Seem to have been around long enough, but there you go. So, learning to be patient is a sense of wisdom. Learning to come back is a sense of wisdom. Learning the deeper pleasures is a kind of wisdom. So, in a way, this can feed back to the first factor, that emotional engagement. Your wisdom will tell you it's worth emotionally putting yourself into things that are worthwhile, and then they slowly start to feed each other. And if you can't find, if wisdom seems to be a bit lacking, well, you might go back to that feeling of absorption. Where was that? How can you find that? If that's a little bit lacking, you can go back to recollecting, bringing yourself back. So there's a sort of sequence to these, but they do. It depends on where you are at any one point. One might be a bit stronger, so you can use one to to sort of feed the others. I've been meditating quite a long time. Koska's been meditating quite a long time. Some of us here have been meditating quite a long time. If you've only been here 6 weeks, you have a bit of an advantage over us, because you've probably still got something like a beginner's mind, and that's really valuable, because there's a sense of wisdom in that, because you might say you don't know. Well, that's a good start. If you don't know, then you can start turning towards things, and then you can learn. Every so often I think, oh yeah, I've got it. No, I haven't. But my years of experience kind of makes me think I should have got there. I should know where I am by now. Well, yeah, okay, I've just started. But it's really valuable to have that beginner's mind, to say you don't really know, you're still learning. Good. Stay there as long as you can. Keep coming back to, I'm starting all over again. I've got to start learning how to sit. I've got to start learning the mindfulness of breathing, the metta bhavana. You've got to start learning those all over again. And that freshness can be really, really valuable. So keep not knowing what you're doing for as long as possible. That might keep you a bit more, paying more attention. Beginner's mind, and that can add to, it comes to me every so often, but that can add to curiosity, which feeds into these things, feeds into these qualities, that sense of curiosity about what you're doing, where you're going. If you don't know, you're probably going to be curious. What don't I know? How do I go a bit further with this not knowing? How can I add to that? And I think wisdom has a sense of curiosity about it. It's not knowing it, but it's kind of knowing that you don't know, but you know how to take a couple of steps further. I'm going to be finishing in. I think I'd better be calling it a day now, actually, because there's plenty in there. I think finishing on that note is quite a good one, really. Stay alive, stay curious. So, let's turn towards a short sit, a short bit of practice. You've been listening to me speaking, so there may be a lot of words, a lot of ideas going around. So it's acknowledging that. Perhaps for a little while a busy mind. Some of it might have gone a bit deeper. So acknowledging our physical presence again. We might feel energy in the body, the energy of engagement. And noticing where you might want to relax the body. Relaxing the thinking process. Relaxing the face. Letting go of the jaw. Noticing where the shoulders are. Can we let them go? Open and soften the shoulders. chest is rising and falling. And the belly is moving with the breath. The muscles supporting the backbone, stretching and relaxing. Come down to our sitting bones. Sense of being grounded. Our arms softening, resting in front of us. Being aware of our fingers, what the sensations are in our fingers. We might notice a bit of tension in the body still. Just be aware of it. We might find ease and pleasure in the body. Breath entering the body, flowing through the body. An easy rhythm. We'll just begin to draw this meditation to a close. to do as we've done before. Just turn to the person next to you. Very brief exploration, maybe just what's happened in that practice just then, or how you might recognise some of those qualities I was talking about. Some might be very familiar, some you might really enjoy. Just to offer, as it were, 1 minute each person, just to see where you are with your familiarity with those qualities in your daily life. I'll tap the bell when it's time to change over.
Awareness to it. It's like big awareness to broader awareness. Now also getting distracted, not like physically, but help me get back going.
Doesn't take long to get you all chatting. Yeah, so just a couple of minutes for tea break. What was curious, what was valuable in what you were saying to each other? Anything you'd like to share? What's familiar to you?
I think both of us had kind of a different awareness of our body.
Ah.
So I think doing this exercise makes you appreciate that you are within your body.
Ah.
And you don't notice it normally.
Yeah.
I think we both kind of described that in slightly different ways, but similar kind of.
Yeah. What trying to be present here, and the fact that that's not always going on.
Yeah, just awareness that your hands are there and your head is there and all your lungs, your chest is doing its job breathing. Just those basic things that you just take for granted.
Okay.
Most of the time.
Yes. Once again, that's a good excuse for me to quickly promote the Saturday retreat. We will be doing walking meditation, which is a really good way just to be really present with your body as much as you can. Walking, and there's lots of additional practices to really be physically present. Because if we're not here, where are we?
I think it's very settling.
Settling.
Settling to be aware. This is what we were talking about. Settling and pleasurable. Just to be centred in your body.
Yeah. Yeah, good. Yeah.
and to settle your emotions by
Okay.
focusing on that.
Yeah, being settled is a real pleasure, isn't it? want to cultivate.
It is quite quick.
Oh yeah.
I felt deeply unsettled before I went into the meditation, then I feel very settling.
Oh, good.
So it's quite a quick, efficient process, really.
Great. Good for you. You have to teach me that.
You've just done it, darling. You've experienced it.
Great. Good. Perhaps it was all just wonderfully profound, was it? Okay, why don't we go and have a tea break? Just say a little bit about something that we've, Gosu particularly mentioned in terms of the hindrances. I'll just say a little bit about that, and then we'll have a slightly longer meditation, and we'll carry on through till to the just before the end. We'll wrap up together. We'll have a quick chat together at the end. Yeah, we've called this course a challenge, and hopefully it's been a pleasurable challenge. And Gosu was talking in the hindrances that they can be, they can seem to get in the way. We can get over focused on them. We have our particular favourite hindrances, and the antidotes are there to help us, just work with them. One thing he mentioned briefly was this sense of playfulness with what's going on. Life can have some pretty tough experiences, and it's not always just straightforward to just think of joy and happiness and playfulness, because there's some strong things going on for any of us at any time. We can't always smile our way through it and say everything's going okay. There's some stuff that we have to deal with that hurts. But we have to have that. We have to keep that sense of how do we be alive to those kind of difficulties, and see how we might be able to resource ourselves to bounce back. So we live with those strong experiences, and come back to a sense of the pleasures, the joys, the things that feed us. And I think there's a side of playfulness that can add to that. There's reasons for why things happen. We don't always know what they are. There's always conditions that bring things about, and we can't always understand them or explain them or get them sorted out. So sometimes the solution to that is just kind of bringing a degree, at least, of lightness and playfulness to it. I was thinking of this in terms of, to agree, of course, this is a bit personal. It's that thing of how much we are, how much we're adult, how much we're grown up, how much we're mature, and how much there's still hopefully a bit of a playful child in us. And I think it's worth returning to that sense of your parents take you to the playground and they let you go, and you're just free to run around. You're just free to do whatever you like in that playground. You can feel safe in the playground because you know the boundaries, you know your parents are there, and then you can just do what you like. And I think there's something about that when we're doing this, when we're with the mind. Well, it is. We could say it's a playground. It's a complete mystery. We don't know what's going on there. So let's see to what extent we can have fun. We can explore. We can be open. We can have that sense of curiosity with this thing called the mind, this experience that goes on. The mind, of course, not just being this intelligent thinking thing up here, but that there's the deeper stuff there. we grow up quite quickly, and we should be mature, shouldn't we? We should be mature and adult and all the rest of it, which is fair enough. We have to do that. But what about remembering, you know, those pleasures that weren't so long ago when we were just free to run around and we were just free. You know, what's the best way to learn? It's to run around freely. You know, who learns quickest? It's children. It's extraordinary, isn't it? And they learn in the strangest of ways. And if you're like me, you got on the swings and you fell off, and you got on the roundabout and you fell off, so you're going to get bumped. But you learn to make it your own thing. And there'll be hindrances in that. You know, there'll be difficulties. There's the other kids in the playground who aren't so great. There's the more dangerous bits. There's the sharp edges, and there's falling off. And it's kind of, how can we put our arms around those hindrances and say, here you are. Well, you're not going to go away. However hard I push you away, you're not going to go away. So why don't I put my arm around you and see if we can sort of do this together? Ill will, if you fight against it, I create more ill will. So how can I say, okay, here we go, you're with me, ill will, let's see if we can kind of do this together. I'm not going to push you away, I don't want to be quite dominated with you, so having that kind of friendship, having that kind of connection, and we work out together. We don't quite know what we're doing, but we can work along with it. You know, you can apply that to whichever you can have doubt and you can have indecision. You know, that's something that every so often comes up to me. You know, I make some progress and I make some progress. Am I making progress? Am I getting this? And I could just plunge into that, or I could sort of hold it off. But I sometimes think, okay, I'm going to have to be, put my arms around doubt and indecision. I'm going to have to put my arm around that and say, all right, you're here, we're doing this together. How can we ride and roll along with it? Again, that's something like curiosity, isn't it? That's something like exploring, not knowing, but knowing that we don't know, and finding the best way to be a degree of serious, but a degree of lightness as well. You know, sometimes we haven't got much choice. Sometimes we're a bit lighter, sometimes we're a bit more serious. They both have something. How do we allow them to feed us and to make the best of this? So we'll have a mindfulness of breathing now. And if you're really there and you're really present and you're moving through the stages, fantastic. If you're rolling along with it and you don't need anything else, brilliant. If the hindrances come up, if there's sloth and torpor, you know, if there's wanting, if there's craving, okay, here you are again. Let's see if we can, you know, just recognise they're there, sit beside them, or, you know, a silent conversation with that, as it were, friend, and perhaps a bit of lightness, perhaps a bit of playfulness might allow us to sit up again, you know, and be present and enjoy it again a bit.